You're welcome. The news starts in West Africa, where the federal government of Nigeria plans to query non-performing power distribution companies worried by the worsening power supply situation in the country. The Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabuhu, summoned the chief executives of the Abuja Electricity Distribution Company and the Ibano Electricity Distribution Company, talked tough about the deteriorating electricity supply. He said willful non-performance by any distribution company could suffice as a reason for the severe punishment or outright revocation of their license. The Nigerian minister is set to meet with the DISCOs next week, while the managing director of the Transmission Company of Nigeria, Sule Ahmed Abdulaziz, has also been summoned over the deteriorating power situation in the country. Nigeria's central bank has revoked the licenses of 4,173 forex bureaus over their failures to meet regulatory guidelines. The Apex Bank disclosed this on Friday in a statement signed by the acting director of corporate communications, Sidi Hakama. It said the license withdrawal is an exercise of the powers conferred on the Apex Bank under the Bank and Other Financial Institutions Act of 2020 and the revised operational guidelines for Forex Bureaus 2015. According to the statement, the regulation includes payment of all necessary fees, including the license renewal, within the stipulated period. Away from that, Nigeria's House of Representatives has called for the declaration of a state of emergency on food and nutrition subsectors of the economy. This was during the inauguration of the House Committee on Nutrition and Food Security in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Lawmakers also called for challenges affecting the sector to be tackled. Here's more. Here's our reporter, Amadinui.
With the prices of foodstuff in the country skyrocketing, this has increased the hardship being witnessed by citizens. Nigeria's House of Representatives, in a bid to address this challenge, recently inaugurated the House Committee on Food and Nutrition.
The mandate of our committee can be summarized thus: to urgently arrest the growing food crisis and malnutrition, which have become a serious threat to security and national development, by examining existing extant laws, evaluating their effectiveness, strengthening gray areas, and adopting an impactful synergy among the relevant MDAs.
Let me also re-emphasize the position of the House to improve food and nutrition for our people. In our resolve as a House to tame hunger and malnutrition, pursue food security and sustainable development, we prioritize agricultural development as a key legislative agenda based on our strong belief that the agricultural sector is a critical factor in growing the nation's economy and scaling down poverty rates.
Lawmakers say while many Nigerians now witness multidimensional poverty, there is a need to address challenges in the agricultural sector.
Most farmers in neighboring border states now prefer to sell their produce to markets outside the country to earn more than they would have earned selling them within Nigeria on account of currency fluctuation.
Food security is not an agriculture issue, it's not a health issue, it's not an environment issue, it's not physical security issue, it's all of it. And you need to have stakeholders around the table so that we can appreciate, we can do better. And the same thing with nutrition.
The committee called for the declaration of a state of emergency on the food and nutrition subsectors of the country.
This committee deems it wise to propose the declaration of state of emergency in nutrition and food security in Nigeria to address the issue with the required sense of urgency and multi-stakeholder strategic participatory approach.
In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadin Uyi.
The Trade Union Congress of Nigeria has reacted to a statement by the Nigerian President Bola Tinubu, where he slammed organized labor for protesting within the first 9 months of his administration. While speaking during the inauguration of the Lagos Red Line project on Thursday, The Nigerian president told labor unions to stop their protests and wait for 2027, the year of the next general election, to join the political process. Well, TUC President Festus Osifo, while speaking to newsmen, says the TUC members are unionists and not politicians, hence they have the right to protest. He added that the statement of the president was alien to him, and he says he is interested in the welfare of members of the TUC and the Nigerian masses. Nigeria's Defense Headquarters has launched the Celebrate Nigeria Challenge, a new initiative aimed at revitalizing the nation and fostering a sense of national pride amongst Nigerians. In a video shared by the Nigerian Army on its official X account on Friday, the Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Buba, emphasized the importance of enduring present challenges for the sake of future prosperity. He urged citizens to embrace the challenge as a way to contribute to making Nigeria great, and Major General Buba kicked off the challenge.
Open the Celebrate Nigeria Challenge, and I commence the challenge by saying, I am Nigerian. Of course, we use the Naira. I will urge citizens to endure today's pain for our tomorrow's gain. We should take solace in knowing that it is all in a bid to make Nigeria great again. We can all begin in making Nigeria great again by taking on the Celebrate Nigeria Challenge. I therefore open the Celebrate Nigeria Challenge, and I commence the challenge by saying, I am Nigerian. Of course, we use the Naira. Of course, we are tough, resilient, and industrious. Of course, the African Footballer of the Year is Nigeria.
The Celebrate Nigeria Challenge is expected to encourage Nigerians to celebrate their heritage and contribute positively to the development of the nation. Let's move to other stories. The Peace Ambassadors Center for Humanitarian Aid and Empowerment, in collaboration with the British Council, have organized a one-day training workshop for young activists in Borno State. The workshop seeks to change the narrative or negative perceptions about the reintegrated, de-radicalized Boko Haram insurgents, preventing radicalization of youth and fostering dialogue and reconciliation. Here's News Central's Umaru Kiroa with the completion of the report.
Discrimination is one major source of concern for many de-radicalized and successfully reintegrated former insurgents in Nigeria's northeast. This even manifests in relationships, as they hardly find anyone willing to settle down with them. This workshop brought together a diverse group of young people who are passionate about their community's progress. They are equipped to changing negative perceptions, preventing radicalization, and fostering dialogue and reconciliation.
This is a really welcome development because youth are now being engaged in all the vital activities of the government.
Peace building involves everybody, and I believe everyone has a role to play, especially the women, since the gender aspect is always sidelined.
By involving youth in such issues, it gives more chances of building peace.
These will serve as a catalyst for us to continue advocate for the sustainability of peace within and outside the state.
During the workshop, the young peace advocates engaged in enlightening discussions, interactive sessions, and shared experiences related to peace building.
Be patriotic, be nationalistic, and be helpful to our state and communities.
With this kind of effort, we'll achieve peace, and greater peace for that matter. So I think it's a welcome development.
Our dream is you guys will go back to the community and then change the narrative, meaning It's not everything that we leave to security agencies and then the government to do. We also have a role to play, and this role has to be played by the youth.
We are inaugurating a number of young ambassadors that will be going into society to trickle down the capacities of peace building and of tolerance that we have taught them. The project was funded by the British Council.
The workshop also equipped the young peace advocates with the necessary tools to foster dialogue and reconciliation, which are essential for sustainable peace in the region as well as the Borno restoration agenda. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
Thank you, Maru. Nigeria's Minister of Interior has tasked the newly appointed Controller General of the Nigerian Immigration Service to live up to the high expectations of citizens and provide solutions to the numerous challenges affecting the service. The minister, during the decoration of a controller in Abuja, urged her to become a solutions provider and take the service to the next level.
You have what it takes to deliver. You have it. You were in passport, you were in migration, you were at the airport in Lagos, the busiest of all the airports in Nigeria. You were in Jos State Command, you were in the zone in Ibadan. So you've been through all parts of immigration. You have idea of every part of immigration at top management level. So it means you know the problems, and of course, the responsibility of preferring solutions lies with you.
Over 70 persons suspected of committing different offenses were on Friday paraded by a joint operation of security agencies led by the Operation Safe Haven in Jos, the capital of Plateau State. Here's Chizoba Aniowe, who was there for News Central and now reports.
This is the first parade of criminal suspects by the combined security agencies in Plateau State this year. It is also the first time this huge number of young men are facing journalists in recent times. Their cases may not be unconnected with the many civil unrest that rocked some parts of Kaduna and Bauchi states, which includes the 2023 Christmas Eve attacks in some parts of Plateau State. The development was credited to a boost in the capacity of personnel as promised by the service chiefs during their operational assessment of the security situation on the plateau.
Security agencies also neutralized a total of 13 armed criminals and arrested 271 suspects for offenses related to kidnapping, armed robbery, gun running, banditry, armed destruction, vandalism, and other sundry crimes. So far, we have prosecuted a total of 33 arrested suspects to court and dismantled 2 arms fabrication factories. Also, personnel recovered a total of 454 livestock from restaurants.
Operation Safe Haven reaffirmed our commitment in ensuring sustainable peace is achieved in troubled areas within her areas of coverage.
Operation Safe Haven appreciates the good people of Plateau, Kaduna, and Bauchi State for their immense support and cooperation towards ensuring credible information is provided to aid the successful conduct of operations by security agencies towards flushing out criminal elements and their collaborators.
A total of 79 civilians were rescued from the kidnappers and armed robbers, while 110 different calibers of weapons and 1,161 ammunition were recovered from suspected criminals. In Jos for News Central, I am Chizoba Aniowe.
Welcome back. Let's go to health matters now. No fewer than 9 people have died of Lassa fever in Benue State in northern Nigeria in the past 2 months. The state epidemiologist, Dr. Simon Gishe, disclosed this to journalists in a chat. This comes after the Nigerian Center for Disease Control and Prevention said that it had recorded 2,621 suspected Lassa fever cases and 84 deaths with a case fatality rate of 18.6%. According to Ngishe, 46 people, including health workers and internally displaced persons, have been hit by the dreaded disease across the state. He notes that 4 cases were found among the internally displaced persons at Otese IDP camp in Guma local government area of the state. Well, joining me this afternoon to discuss this further is the chairman of the Nigerian Medical Association Infectious Disease Community. He joins us from Enugu State. Dr. Amobi Omoha, thank you so very kindly for your time. Good afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
Please throw some more light on what Lassa fever is and how one can differentiate Lassa fever from other acute viral hemorrhagic fevers.
Okay. Lassa fever is RNA virus disease caused by Lassa virus. It is being transmitted by a rodent called Mastomi matrensis, which is a multimate rat. So, person can get it when you come in contact with food material infested by the urine or the fecal matter of the rat disease, or when you come in contact with the body fluid of infected person. Then the history is when they are called first in Borno State, January 1969. It affected the missionary nurse working there. It's a very notifiable disease and of public health importance because of its epidemics and the case fatality rate. We can differentiate it from other viral hemorrhagic disease in terms of route of transmission. In case of Lassa fever, the route of transmission is through human being and through infected. While in case of yellow fever, which is another type, or Ebola, get it through monkey and the mosquito.
All right.
In terms of yellow fever, we now have the vaccines. If you take a vaccine for yellow fever, it can prevent you up to 10 years. But now, with Lassa fever, we don't have vaccines, which give us a cause of concern. Lassa fever occurs mainly in dry season, this period, because of farm factors. But in terms of yellow fever, there's no seasonal variation. In terms of Lassa fever, you can also talk about other things that makes it, the fatality rate, the symptoms, all these things. Even in terms of microbiology, Lassa fever is adenoviral disease, while other virus is also different from it in terms of microbiological classification. These are the areas you can classify and differentiate it between Lassa fever.
Amobi Omoha, given the recent surge in Lassa fever cases in Nigeria, what factors do you believe are contributing to the spread of this virus across multiple states in Nigeria?
Okay, thank you for that wonderful question, because it's still a case of concern for the federal government, the citizens, and everybody in Nigeria, because it's a cause of concern. Like now, if you look at the number, we have about above 2,000 cases of suspected cases. We have about 400 confirmed cases across 83 local governments and across 23 states. It's a case of concern. The factors that can lead to upsurge of those things are population migration. People are now moving from area of endemic to non-area of endemic, thereby spreading it. Another thing is awareness. If you look before, we have about 2 molecular labs in the country, but now we have about 8 molecular labs. With that, we have prompt diagnosis and the report, so that within some few days, you can have the result to confirm that this person actually have Lassa disease. Another thing is in terms of gap between the environment of animal, the rodent, and the human being. Now, because of a building of estate, deforestation, and other things, the rat actually move, because the rat stays in the bush or the peri environment, to move now from the bush to human environment, that is the house, thereby contributing the food material that human being get involved with. So these are the factors that cause the upsurge. Another one is also the level of poor sanitation. There's no IPC. That is where the government come into play. They should get awareness. The IPC, the poor sanitation leading to overcrowding, thereby causing that upsurge because human-to-human contact because of overcrowding are now common. These are the factors that lead to upsurge in the society now. And it's a case of concern for all of us because any of us can be a victim.
All right, talking about any of us being victims, let's look at the health sector. Can you give us some insight into the challenges faced by health authorities in Nigeria in effectively managing and containing outbreaks of Lassa fever, especially in densely populated areas?
Okay. The challenges the health factors face is one, poor infrastructure. We don't have enough infrastructures in the hinterland and the area. So when you go to the hospital, because of the few and lack of infrastructures in the hospital, it delays diagnosis. In terms of management of the patient, we don't have enough PPE. Some hospitals, you find it difficult to find common glove that will help us to even protect before touching the patient. Those are the factors. Another one is poor sanitation. There's no sanitation. You will see people dumping refuse around the house without poor adequate control of sanitation, thereby attaching that rodent, which we call marmot rodent, or another word for it is Mastomenia nigeriensis. Those are the factors that make it difficult. Another one is there is poor education and the training of the staff. There is no fund to train the staff on IPC. IPC means infection prevention and control for the staff to be aware about how to handle the patient. There is no awareness on how the patient that die of Lassa fever should be buried. They burial right. People do what they think is perfect for them and thereby exposing other people to danger. So, but when these things are kept in place, and these things are what we should get at the policy levels, because we're talking about prevention, they have secondary prevention, primary prevention, and tertiary prevention. The primary prevention is where the government makes policies. The policies is what they do because they look at the health system to work. The governance and leadership have to be in place. If they have a good primary prevention, there is be health promotion about it, there be awareness, there will be training of the staff. And when we do these things, we get it right and we protect the citizen and protect everybody because the disease is really causing an upsurge in the society. Thank you.
Thank you so very kindly. Before we go, let's just find out from you, in your opinion, how can health care facilities enhance their capacity to be able to diagnose and treat Lassa fever cases promptly?
Okay. I love that question because it involves all of us in healthcare services. The first thing we need to do to get it right is educating ourselves on the symptoms, signs of Lassa fever, because that will bring us to high index of suspicion. One important thing to note is because the symptoms of Lassa fever can come as symptoms of typhoid fever or malaria, thereby giving the healthcare provider who have to come in contact and diagnose it a different view. But when we have high index of suspicion, we can always suspect and do triage in case we have a patient. Another thing we need to also do is training of ourselves on IPC. IPC means infection prevention control. When we train ourselves on that, we will know what to do, how to handle patients, how to use PPE, and how to do that. Another factor that can help us to increase our capacity is utilizing the molecular lab that we have now. When we utilize it and make adequate diagnosis, we can actually separate suspected cases from the real case so that we employ every possible measures to tackle the inflation. Another thing I also think is important we do to enhance our capacity is synergy collaboration with NGO, the government, even the opinion leaders in the state. We discuss with the opinion leaders like Reverend Fathers, the Igwes, the traditional rulers, so that there we educate everybody in the community about high index of suspicions, so that as they're coming, they were able to give us the signs and symptoms the patient presents. Because as I said earlier, apart from other symptoms like bleeding from nose and mouth, it can present with symptoms that confuse the healthcare providers. But when we maintain that high index of suspicion and do all these things, we will improve our capacity to diagnose it and save life, because it's a case of concern that we act and save life.
Okay. Dr. Amobi Oboha, many thanks for your time this afternoon. Let's move on to other stories. Gender experts in Nigeria say about $40 billion is needed to bring about gender equality for women in Africa. This was at the Nigeria's Ministry of Women Affairs, where they urged citizens to support efforts aimed at ensuring economic inclusion of women and girls in the country, while calling for an end to financial inequality of women. They say much is needed to attain the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 5, as estimates indicate that almost $400 billion is needed to achieve this feat.
Failing women. Our global economic system is failing women. How? Financial inclusion. Financial investment in women remains alarmingly low. An additional $360 billion annually is needed to achieve SDG 5 on gender equality and women's empowerment. And the African Development Bank also said for Africa, we need at least $40 billion to bring about gender equality in Africa.
There are huge gender equality gaps, social, economic insecurity challenges that women and girls are facing today, including early child marriage, violence, abuse, and trafficking, among others. Child marriage is one of the most grievous forms of violence perpetrated against girls. It is a human rights violation and a form of gender-based violence as well.
If you want to write for help for us, and you really have the good intention of helping Nigeria, write for people that will help us either donate these industrial machines or pay for it to be given out to women in the villages, as we are already clustering them in the portal as cooperatives. So one big industrial machine can serve a community to help them in producing what they know how to do best and selling it. And through that portal, it could still be sold.
Away from that, the world of workers is facing unprecedented challenges. New technology such as artificial intelligence, robotics, automation, and digitization of the economy, along with the changes in socio-political patterns and climate change, are shifting the nature of work. Nigeria's maritime workers are key drivers of the sector. Their well-being is a reflection of the health of the industry. Therefore, there is a need to ensure policies which must be implemented are put in place to protect their interest in the workplace and also curb the extreme hardship that they face today. Notably, in advanced maritime nations, qualitative education, training, and workers' welfare are given highest priority. In Nigeria, it's been a continued uncertainty resulting from unemployment amid dearth of qualified workforce. The call for a national line, which the new minister is buying into, is apt. It will help to create an opportunity for building seafarers cadets and key workers in the industry to enable them get proper certification and training. Priority must also be placed on their health, payment of salaries, and safety, as well as general welfare.
Workers are well paid.
you won't see any reactions coming out from the labor leaders. But what you are seeing now is as a result of the hardship economy that all of us are passing through in this country today. So to me, as an representative of the workers, ours is to protect their welfare and tell the whole world that all is not well. And that is why you see the Nigerian Labour Congress coming out and say, well, let's register our awareness before the government, the area of challenges, what average citizens are passing through in this country. And that is why you see everybody troop out to let the whole world know that all is not well in this country. Average citizen cannot boast of 3 square meals in a day and talk of loaf of bread that we believe is meant for common man like all of us here, that is now
out of reach.
Out of reach now, where a loaf of bread is almost 3,000 or 4,000 naira. How do you expect the family of 3 or 4 people to take that? So we are telling the government to look inward and make total change, total package for all the citizens, so that we elected them, we voted for them, and then we've never made mistake of electing somebody we all believe is going to deliver us from this bondage. So, and the Nigerian Labour Congress are saying, please, Mr. President, redeem your pledges that we voted for you. We are not against the principle that he has, but rather is to complement our own principle and join it with his own, so that we can, the country can smile. Average cities can boast of 3 square.
Well, you can find out more about that conversation and about what the Maritime Workers Association of Nigeria's leadership is doing to position its members to be competitive among workers in similar jobs around the world. Watch Maritime Radio on Saturday, 7 p.m. and a repeat on Sunday, 1 p.m. right here on News Central TV. A memorial funeral service has been held for the late group chairman of the Nigerian Exchange Group PLC, Abimbola Olorotimi Ogunbanjo. Ogunbanjo was one of the victims of the ill-fated helicopter crash, which also killed Herbert Wigwe, the former group chief executive officer of Access Holdings. News Central's Bernard Akede was at the service and now reports.
A solemn service it was as friends, families and well-wishers gathered to pay their last respect to Abimbola Ogunbanjo. Until his tragic passing, Ogunbanjo was the group chairman of the Nigerian Exchange Group PLC, and at 61, many felt he still had a lot to offer. The Church of the Nativity in Ikoyi, Lagos, was packed full with dignitaries who at one point or the other had interfaced with the deceased and found it hard to believe he was no more.
In his honor, corporations will rise bearing his name. Foundations will be formed and stand as a testament to his legacy. And as long as I breathe, his memory will endure, an eternal flame of remembrance and inspiration to everyone in this room. May the memory of his kindness, wisdom, and love be a guiding light for us all as we navigate the journey ahead.
Abimbola Ogunbanjo was one of 6 persons who lost their lives when their helicopter crashed in California. Also on board were Herbert Wigwe, the former group chief executive officer of Access Holdings, his wife Chizoba, and his son Chizi, all of whom lost their lives. After the service, most of the attendees refused to speak to the press as they were still in shock and mourning. But for those who did speak, they could only wish this was all a bad dream.
He was a nice guy, hardworking guy, forthright. He had this exceptional wisdom, manners of talking and constructing things. He was very, very forthcoming. He'll be greatly missed.
Bimbo was a gentleman. He was very kind-hearted, and he had an infectious smile, and it makes it all the more tragic to think that such a wonderful soul, such a soul that filled the room, has left us.
The remains of Abimbola Ogunbanjo were later taken to his hometown in Ijebu, Ogun State, where he was finally laid to rest. In Lagos for News Central, I'm Bernard Akede.
Welcome back. News Central now continues in the Central African area. Chad Junta Chief Mahamat Idris Deby Itno on Saturday said he will contest a May 6 presidential election just 3 days after his chief rival was killed in murky circumstances. Debi Itno took power in 2021 after his father and veteran leader Idris Debi Itno died while fighting rebels. The iron-fisted ruler had led the Sahelian country for more than 3 decades. Debi Itno had been proclaimed a transitional president by the junta and had promised to return to civilian rule and elections within 18 months, but he subsequently extended the transition by 2 years. The date for the presidential elections was announced on Tuesday, barely 2 months after or before the vote. Debi is almost certain to win, given that his main challenger has been assassinated and the opposition has been muzzled and repressed.
Mohamed Idriss Déby Itno, je suis candidat à l'élection présidentielle de 2024.
As the South African elections draw closer, political parties are on their toes to give a clear message to their supporters on what they will deliver if selected to power. Meanwhile, the Economic Freedom Fighters is continuing with its nationwide manifesto launch across all provinces of South Africa, commemorating 30 years since the country's first inclusive elections. The EFF says its manifesto draws from its 10 years of political activism and engagement with the people of South Africa. And that's all tonight, or this afternoon rather. Before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. Well, News Central now, you heard that Nigeria is set to query non-performing electricity distribution companies. We also brought you news that Chad's junta chief is set to contest the May 6 presidential vote. And the Economic Freedom Fighters of South Africa have launched its manifesto in Gauteng. This is ahead of the country's 2024 elections. We'd like to hear from you. Please send us your eyewitness reports. You can use the WhatsApp number and email address showing on your screen. Also, give us a follow on the major social media platforms. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central TV live on these channels or platforms. Many thanks for watching. I'm Kofi Bartels. Good afternoon.